Have you ever cried during a song that meant nothing to anyone else in the room? Have you ever walked into a space and instantly felt heavy, like you absorbed a stranger's bad day without a single word being spoken? If that's you, stay right here, because what you're about to hear might be the first time anyone has actually explained why your mind works this way, instead of just telling you to stop being so sensitive. For years you were probably told you were too much, too emotional, too reactive, too easily hurt by things other people brushed off in seconds. What nobody told you is that your brain may be running on a different wiring pattern altogether, one that neuroscientists have actually studied and given a name to. It's not weakness. It's not drama. It's a nervous system that's built to notice more, feel more, and process more than the average person. And once you understand that, a lot of your life starts making painful, beautiful sense. Psychologists call this trait high sensitivity, and researcher Elaine Aron was one of the first to study it seriously back in the 1990s. She found that roughly 15 to 20% of people are what she termed highly sensitive persons, or HSPs. That's not a diagnosis. It's not a disorder. It's simply a difference in how deeply your brain processes sensory and emotional information. If you've spent your whole life wondering why everyone else seems fine after a tense conversation while you're still replaying it 3 days later, this is likely why. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Brain imaging studies on highly sensitive people show something remarkable happening in a region called the insula, the part of your brain responsible for self-awareness and processing emotion. In HSPs, this area lights up more intensely than average when they witness someone else's emotional state. That means when your friend is upset, your brain isn't just recognizing it intellectually, it's actually simulating that emotion inside you. Almost like your nervous system doesn't know the difference between your pain and theirs. This connects directly to something called mirror neurons, brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you simply watch someone else perform it. They're part of why you wince when someone stubs their toe, or why you tear up watching a stranger cry in a movie. In highly sensitive people, this mirroring system appears to be more active, which is why you don't just sympathize with others. You genuinely feel what they're feeling, sometimes so strongly that you can't tell where their emotion ends and yours begins. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but why does this feel exhausting instead of like a superpower? That's a completely valid reaction, and there's psychology behind that too. Your nervous system is constantly taking in more stimuli than most people's, more sounds, more subtle facial expressions, more emotional undertones in a room. This is called sensory processing sensitivity, and it means your brain is working overtime just to exist in spaces that other people move through without a second thought. That's not you being fragile. That's your brain doing more labor, all day, every day, mostly without you even realizing it. This is also why crowded places, loud arguments, or emotionally intense situations can leave you feeling completely drained, even if nothing bad actually happened to you personally. You might have noticed that after spending time around someone who's anxious or upset, you carry that feeling home with you, like it attached itself to your skin. Psychologists refer to this as emotional contagion, the transfer of feelings from one person to another simply through exposure. For highly sensitive people, this contagion effect is stronger, faster, and harder to shake off, which is exactly why boundaries aren't optional for you. They're survival. Let's talk about something that might hit close to home. The way you replay conversations in your head long after they're over. If you've ever lain awake analyzing a 5-second interaction from earlier that day, wondering if you said the wrong thing or upset someone without meaning to, that's not overthinking for the sake of it. Your brain is doing deep cognitive processing, another core feature of high sensitivity. You're not just reacting to the world, you're constantly analyzing it, searching for patterns, meaning, and emotional nuance that other people simply don't register. Here's the part that might bring you real relief. This depth of feeling isn't a flaw hiding inside you. It's actually linked to heightened empathy, stronger intuition, and a rare ability to notice things others completely miss, like a shift in someone's tone of voice or a flicker of sadness behind a smile. Studies on empathy and attachment suggest that people who feel this intensely often form deeper, more meaningful relationships, because they're genuinely attuned to the people around them in a way most people aren't. The same trait that exhausts you is also the trait that makes you a safe person for others to fall apart in front of. But there's a real cost to being this attuned. And it's important we talk about it honestly instead of just praising sensitivity like it's all upside. Chronic overstimulation, the kind that comes from constantly absorbing everyone else's emotions, can lead to real nervous system fatigue over time. This is why so many highly sensitive people describe feeling emotionally hungover after social events, or why a single hard conversation can leave you needing an entire day just to recover. Your body isn't being dramatic. It's regulating a genuinely heavier emotional load than most nervous systems are asked to carry. If you grew up in a home where big emotions weren't welcomed, where you were told to calm down or stop crying before you even understood what you were feeling, there's a good chance you learned to see your sensitivity as something shameful. This connects to attachment theory, the idea that our earliest relationships shape how safe we feel expressing emotion later in life. When a highly sensitive child is met with dismissal instead of understanding, they often grow into adults who apologize for feeling too much, who shrink themselves just to avoid being labeled difficult. If that's your story, I need you to hear this clearly. There was never anything wrong with your feelings, only with how they were received. The truth is, the world wasn't built with highly sensitive people in mind. Loud environments, rapid-fire communication, constant stimulation, none of it accounts for the fact that a meaningful portion of people process life on a deeper frequency. But understanding this trait changes everything, because once you know your nervous system isn't broken, you stop fighting it and start working with it. You start recognizing when you need to step away from a draining situation, not as weakness, but as basic self-regulation, the same way anyone would rest a tired muscle. This is also why boundaries feel so unnatural to highly sensitive people at first, because saying no to someone else's need can feel almost physically uncomfortable when your brain is wired to absorb their distress as your own. But learning to separate your emotions from someone else's isn't cold or distant. It's actually one of the healthiest psychological skills you can build. It allows you to keep the gift of empathy without letting it slowly hollow you out. Therapists often call this differentiation, the ability to stay emotionally connected to someone without losing yourself inside their feelings. If you've made it this far, and you feel like this entire video was somehow describing your inner world with uncomfortable accuracy, that reaction alone tells you something important. You're not too much. You never were. You are simply one of the people whose nervous system was built to feel the full weight of being human, the beauty and the exhaustion of it, all at once. And once you stop apologizing for that and start understanding it, you finally get to use it as the quiet superpower it always was, instead of the wound you thought you had to hide. So if this video felt like it was reading your mind, wait until you see the next one, because we're about to break down exactly why highly sensitive people fall in love differently than everyone else. And once you hear it, you won't be able to unsee it in your own relationships.